Let me read to you a passage from the 21st chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 20 to 28. It's the Gospel for Thursday of the 34th week in Ordinary Time. St. Luke writes, Jesus said, "When you see Jerusalem being surrounded by armies, you will know that its desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the city get out, and let those in the country not enter the city. For this is the time of punishment in fulfillment of all that has been written. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women with nursing mothers. There will be great distress in the land and wrath against this people. They will fall by the sword and will be taken as prisoners to all the nations. Jerusalem will be trampled on by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Men will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time, they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." That's from Luke chapter 21, verses 20 to 28. When we think of Christ's coming, what do I mean? Well, we notice distinct components in Luke's account of our Lord's words to his disciples about the end. It is usually called his eschatological discourse. Luke's presentation of it, chapter 21, verse 6 to 36, goes for some 31 verses, while Matthew's for some 43 verses. Matthew chapter 24, verse 2 to 44. The two are quite similar. Mark's account goes for 35 verses, chapter 13, verse 2 to 37. Luke's text, as does Matthew, begins with his prediction of the destruction of the magnificent temple, with all its noble stones and offerings. The days will come when, as we heard, there shall not be left one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. Chapter 21, verse 5 to 6. Then our Lord refers to wars and tumults. They were not to be terrified, for this must first take place, but the end will not be at once. Chapter 21, verse 9. Conflicts between nations and natural disasters are then described, and terrors and great signs from heaven. Christ's disciples will be severely persecuted for my name's sake, our Lord says. This will be a time for you to bear testimony. By your endurance you will gain your lives. Chapter 21, verse 10 to 19. In our passage today, which is the immediate sequel of all that, our Lord seems to repeat in different words the two elements of turmoil he has just mentioned. There will be the utter destruction of the holy city. When armies begin to surround it, his disciples are to depart, for Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Chapter 21, verse 20 to 24. Then our Lord passes once more to the general cosmic upheaval, with men fainting with fear and with foreboding of what is coming on the world. The wages of sin, then, are being paid. The temple and its city will fall, and in time, so will the world. All will crack, rend asunder, and implode, for the system of things is separated from its only source, the God who sustains and loves it. Most seriously, as St. John says in his prologue, he came unto his own, and his own did not receive him. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. John chapter 1, verse 11 to 14. Our Lord's words portray those faithful to him being in a world that is at odds with God and Jesus Christ, and therefore at odds with them. They cannot rely on things or persons about them, but only on their Master who will come at the end. He is their stay and their sure hope. The notable thing about The vivid description of the wars and tumults and the terrors and great signs is the coming of Jesus Christ as Lord. All things may pass away, but Jesus Christ will not. He is the Lord, and in his hands there rests all authority in heaven and on earth. With him there is all power and all glory. Hence, whatever we see coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken, in Jesus Christ there is an absolute anchor. Men will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Luke chapter 21 verse 20-28. All will be well for those who place their trust and allegiance in him. In Matthew's account of Christ's trial, our Lord stood before the Sanhedrin and was put under oath to declare whether he claimed to be both the Messiah and the very Son of the living God, and therefore possessing the nature of God. Well, that was the one moment amid the various accusations when he did speak. Matthew chapter 26 verse 63-64. He answered the high priest with the utmost clarity, knowing that he was delivering himself into their hands. You will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. Luke's account is a little different, but Christ's testimony about himself is the same. The Son of Man shall be seated at the right hand of the power of God. Luke indeed makes the interrogation clearer still. They all said, Are you the Son of God then? And he said to them, You say that I am. And they said, What further testimony do we need? We have heard it ourselves from his own lips. Luke chapter 22 verse 69-71. In our gospel today, our Lord's prediction of the end in the presence of his disciples has its climax in the coming of the Son of Man. In a cloud with power and great glory, he is coming not only as the Son of Man of the book of Daniel, but as God our judge. But when that happens, his disciples are to stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Christ's coming is to be a cause of rejoicing for those who have accepted him. Christ is the great foundation on whom all may rely. The eschatological discourse of Jesus Christ about the end times adds this singular feature to the various apocalyptic descriptions and passages of the Old Testament. The defining element is the person of Jesus Christ. All of history looks to his final coming, and the entire life of each individual ought to have his coming at the end of life as its defining pole. Let us so live as to be ready for the bridegroom when he comes. When he comes, the cry will go out, the bridegroom is here, go out to meet him. Let us live in such a way as always to be ready, whenever be the day, whenever the moment.